It's different. If you give something, food, clothing, shelter to somebody because you are a valued child of God, or we care about you as a human being because you have potential and you have dignity and you have promise. And I'm going to help you get that education. I'm going to help you get that job.
I remember when you were still in this building and you were transferring across the street. But I think it's also important because one of the things I've looked at is the success of some of the most successful companies and who are leading these organizations. It used to be the MBA that was being hired to be a manager, or a former military general who had managed a lot of people to be hired and put into these positions. And that has dramatically shifted in the last 20 years, where some of the most successful companies are actually built by engineers, computer science majors, scientists that are not the traditional path to become the leader of an organization. And I think government is slowly, very slowly, very, very slowly.
Very slowly.
I mean, real estate's slow. Government's, I don't know when it's, when something is going to happen. And whenever you put these forces together, I think the future is going to be more of an analytical approach, because I can't remember which country announced, now this is not what I'm recommending, but they're using AI to run the whole government. That's a whole nother conversation. I don't think we're there yet. I think we need a couple more minutes before that happens. But I do think the mindset needs to be there.
Oh, absolutely.
I met with a few generals recently. We had a conversation of that Wall Street Journal article that came out where a general was using ChatGPT for strategy. On one hand, everybody was aghast. It's like, oh my God, they're using, like, the LLM is like training on all of our military data, and that's a whole nother conversation. But it is true. If you're not augmenting your decision making, augmenting, not replacing, with these research tools, then you're not going to make as good of a decision. Right. And I think that government has to be able to embrace these technologies to be a lot more effective. I really like the whole approach, even though it's not specifically you're focused on industrial engineering, but system optimization and simulation modeling, which we do a lot of here in the company, to figure out potential outcomes so that you're ready for, but that requires a different group. It's not the traditional broker. It's not the traditional government official. It's not the traditional approach. It is, hey, I need to model the behavior of the system, government, state of Georgia, the United States, other systems, and then figure out what are the outcomes I'm trying to optimize for. And I think what's really interesting is that the outcomes aren't just quantitative from an economics and fiscal standpoint. It can actually be health outcomes.
Oh.
It can be other components of being human in a society that I think that is going to happen, whether it's government 2, 3.0, where you're going to be applying those technologies and those sciences. But guess what? The current guard, no offense to all of them, they didn't grow up with analytics and data science as like, hey, this is how we do things. Yeah. So there's this new generation, like yourself, myself, and I think the leaders that are coming up, that is like eating, breathing, sleeping data science, analytics, artificial intelligence, knows about machine learning models, and that it can create positive outcomes for communities from that standpoint. And I know you've applied some of these things within the nonprofit world. So let's go there. I mean, you've got...
Well, and a quick point to that, because I think you just said something that I think is critically important, and that is that you have this beautiful world where it's both highly analytical and highly relational. And the leaders are the ones that can do both. You can no longer live in just a relational world. And you talk about this, all relationships, well, yes, the world is related. And relationships ultimately form the foundation of everything you do. You have to invest in people. You have to. And you have to understand, like, the emotions of people and what people care about. I mean, that is, you can't do anything in this world or in business if you don't understand that stuff. And at the same time, be able to think analytically and bring these tools. We've had these amazing tools that we can use in Marshall to have a relational and analytical solution that can actually achieve a durable solution to really bring people together and solve those problems. I think it's really key, because we're seeing this new model of leadership developing where you actually do have to do both. And I think one of the things I'm frustrated, so you got just the conventional politician is almost pure relation. And it's just, and it's, and sadly, it's almost like, what do people think about me instead of what is right? Right. And I think that also just creates a whole another set of issues. So anyway, so I didn't want to,
No, yeah, I think it's important because I think if we forget that we're there to support humans, it sounds like a dumb statement, but whenever it's so easy to lose yourself in the numbers, and I work with PhD students at Georgia Tech in the Tiger program, and the analytical mind starts to take over and lose the human component, but you need to have both of those equations. And I've always admired, I think a lot of people check a box by being on the board of a nonprofit. It's another thing to embrace it, lead it, and grow it because you believe in it. Both of us have different years, but a part of Leadership Atlanta. And I think that, yes, I was connected in the community, but I really didn't see the whole community. And now you've had this opportunity running for governor that you get to really see the state of Georgia and everything up, down, left, right, everything about it. There's so many dimensions to it. So I know you and I, and you're actually one of my sponsors, to be on the board of counselors at the Carter Center, which has been pretty amazing. And you're leading it as president there. You're on the Shepherd Center board, Metro Atlanta YMCA, Rotary Club together as well. And I think one of the most exciting programs that, really briefly, because we only have 10 minutes, is give everybody kind of a glimpse of Covenant House and the overnight sleep out, and that it's not just average people, yes, but it's also leaders in the community that are coming together to really address some of these issues with homelessness as well.
oh, absolutely. So a very long story, I'll make short, 'cause it is fascinating, but it was a thing that started with the Rotary Club of Atlanta around human trafficking. And a lot of folks that are really susceptible to that are homeless kids. And I say kids, 18 to 22, I often still think of myself as a kid, but like that 18 to 22 is really, really vulnerable. And as we learned about that at Rotary, but then when I was going through Leadership Atlanta, you get assigned like a project, right? So our project was to meet with the kids of Covenant House and to build a mentorship program for them, which is a very worthwhile thing to do. But as we went down there and we were meeting these kids and we learned about the program, we're like, this is so effective. But they only had 10 beds, or they had 15 beds. They were sleeping another 10 kids on the floor mats in the hallways, and they had 200 kids on a waiting list. And so I was talking to the executive director at the time. I was like, "Do you need to think about growing this program?" She was like, "Yeah, but like our budget, we just contracted. Like there's nothing we can do." But through Rotary, I was aware of a 7-acre, 60,000 square foot campus on the other side of town that had been recently vacated by another nonprofit and was actually going through a foreclosure process with a bank. And this is where the relational part comes in. So, like, well, what bank? Well, it's Wells Fargo. Well, I know Mike Donnelly. He's a Rotary Club member. We had Candy Moore was in our Leadership Atlanta class. She ran. So, what we ultimately did was we led an effort to raise about $4 million. We acquired that facility for under $2 million on the west side of Atlanta at the intersection of Johnson Road and West Marietta for under $2 million. 7 acres, 60,000 square foot facility, fully furnished. It needed some modifications, but the corporate community got behind that and we got it done when nobody thought that could happen. But we mobilized people to do it. And then the coup d'etat was we did the sleep out. So we're like, all right, we're gonna get executives, like leaders of companies, to come and meet these kids where they are and experience them and let them share their stories and get to build a relationship with them, not just trot them up and to give a speech like a big ball, but like literally in winter clothes in this building and like understand what their story is, and then at the end of the night, these executives are going to get a cardboard box and a sleeping bag and go out. And while the kids are inside looking out the windows from their warm rooms, they see these people sleeping out for them. And we did like this little thing, raise money with friends. I mean, it wasn't like super orchestrated. And the first year we raised, I think like $80,000 in one night, $80,000. We were very proud of ourselves. Shortly thereafter, we started raising $1 million every year through the sleep out alone. $1 million. And the coolest thing about it is not the money we raised, which is amazing and is a great organization, but it is the stories you hear and the kids you meet. And I'll run into them at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They're like, "Mr. D, remember me?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh," when you build these relationships with these kids who are getting their lives back. And that's the thing. I think there's so many private organizations that need to be oftentimes coordinated, right? Like we see with like the At Promise centers that the Atlanta Police Foundation does, bringing nonprofits together to coordinate. This other thing I'm involved with, Cafe Momentum, which is a restaurant downtown that creates internship opportunities for kids who have been through the juvenile justice system. Super cool. Lunch and dinner Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If you ever want to go downtown, it's fantastic. Like really good food. But if you can coordinate these efforts and get people caring about their neighbors and serving their neighbors, then government doesn't have to do as much, right? And it's different. If you give something, food, clothing, shelter to somebody because you are a valued child of God, or we care about you as a human being because you have potential and you have dignity and you have promise. And I'm going to help you get that education. I'm going to help you get that job. That's not more than just giving you money. It's going to give you a sense of purpose and dignity. That's the most caring policy. That is the most caring policy. And it ultimately requires the least investment if we do it right. And that's the thing in government. Everybody wants to talk about how much money you're throwing at things, but a lot of times people don't think about just the leadership capital. Yeah. I mean, you got a pulpit that you can bring people together around problems. You don't have to just solve things with money. And oftentimes money does not solve those problems. You know who do? People. People solve problems when they have visions of the future that are compelling enough and collective enough that they're willing to roll up their sleeves and work really hard with people they may disagree with to solve problems and get things done. I mean, that's the reason I got in this. I mean, JP, I mean, I was just like, I want us to be the state we can be. We legitimately could be the best state in the best country in the world. Period. And we need to do it. And we need to do it as soon as possible, ASAP, but also ASAP, focusing on affordability. No, let's take it on with smart ways, with models and optimizations. And there's all kind of stuff. We won't go down a rabbit hole now, but it's pretty cool. With S is strength. And strength is safety and security. It's efficient government. It's all these things that can be, made more efficient and more effective to deliver on the promise that government has for people to make us strong. Energy policy, all kind of fun things on energy policy. Accessibility in education and healthcare, making our public schools the anchors in our community that they should, at the same time giving parents choice and confidence in those schools to make a difference. So that caring, competent, and well-compensated teachers can actually meet kids where they are, focusing on early childhood education and programs that actually teach kids how to read, so we're not graduating kids that can't read, which happens now, which is horrible. And then healthcare. Right, we do a lot of things great. We're number one in business, have been for 12 years. We should be number one in a lot of things, and we shouldn't be number 37 in maternal mortality. Like, come on, 37 in maternal mortality? I heard we might have even slipped further. It's like, these are problems we can solve, and in healthcare and BME and all, I've been talking to folks. I believe that we could actually, and this is a crazy one, but I think it's absolutely doable. And talking with experts, I believe we can do it. We could be number one in women's health. Number one. Let's not just be defensive about getting away from this 37 in maternal mortality. Let's be number one in women's health. There's this whole sector of innovation that actually designs therapeutics for women's biology, which, by the way, modern medicine has always treated women like little men. And they're not little men. It's totally different biologies. Let's be smart about this. Let's do these things right, which leads to the P for prosperity, ASAP. I mean, prosperity is something like you're talking about, like giving people an opportunity to work and getting that dignity to climb onto the ladder of prosperity and climb up it. You're not supposed to hang on that bottom rung. And programs like yours actually enable people to get in the game, to make investments, to participate in wealth building for their families. And it's not just foreign direct investment that we need to do on economic development, but it's creating opportunities for people to start their own businesses and to see what it's like to create jobs. And they don't also all have to be fancy jobs. I helped my cousin start a plumbing company, and he's killing it. But we need to introduce kids in high school to those opportunities to put a connection between what they're learning and what they can do in the future. People say, oh, this generation, they're undisciplined. Dude, we got kids that'll run wind sprints so they throw up to win a basketball game, but they won't do their math homework. We're not aligning the incentives with what's needed to get there. And I think if we do that, we can create a prosperous Georgia that is prosperous for everybody. And I will, like, the agricultural, I've learned more about like farming. You would not believe, I didn't know a lot about farming, but if you ask the right questions and you listen and you get the right people together, man, we have got so much potential in agriculture in the state of Georgia. We talk about food affordability. We can actually solve that problem because we got a lot of land. We got a lot of farmers that are sub-optimized right now because of the system that they're plugged into. But it's system thinking, relationally and analytically, I think, is what can solve problems. Tax policy as well. So anyway, I think this ASAP platform, we can solve a lot of problems, but we need to do it with a sense of alacrity. We need to do it quickly. We need it with urgency so that we can actually start experiencing that benefit. We can't wait around and let other generations slip by that don't have that potential to be in the greatest state in the greatest country of the world.